Hey guys, Nate here from True Crime Cast. Look, have you ever wished that you could go back in time and see the events that shape the true crime cases that really just fascinate you? But with newspapers.com, it's like having a time machine into the past. Dive into more than 1 billion, that's right, billion with a B, newspaper pages from 1690 all the way up to 2025 and relive the headlines that shocked entire towns. Explore newspapers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond with just a simple search. Read the breaking news as it happened. Crime scene reports, witness testimonies, courtroom drama, you name it. Explore forgotten clues and see how the media shaped the narrative of infamous cases. But it's not just the major stories. Newspapers.com lets you dig into local mysteries, missing persons reports, and small town scandals that history, unfortunately, forgot. It's the closest thing that you can get to being there when it all unfolded. So if you're ready to dig deeper into the crimes that keep you up at night, start your journey today at newspapers.com. Just use the code TrueCrimecast at checkout for 20% off. Untold stories are waiting in the archives.
Your Space Coast vacation is preparing for liftoff. Start counting down now. 10, 9, 8, 7. It's time for a beach vacay that feels like heaven. 6, 5, 4. Come explore Melbourne and the beaches. 3, 2, 1. It's time for some rocket-filled fun. Count down to your best beach vacation ever on Florida's Space Coast. Launch your planning now at visitspacecoast.com.
Running a business is hard work. Building your website shouldn't be. With Wix, you can express your ideas, give direction, then leave the heavy lifting to AI, from site creation to branded content and images. Have fun with the details. Customize what you want the way you want, and manage your whole business from a centralized dashboard with expert AI tools. Build, scale, and enjoy the incredible results. You can do it all yourself on Wix.
When's the last time you changed your air filter? Filtrete brand is here to remind you that it's important to change it regularly to help keep your HVAC system running smoothly and efficiently. Multiple factors can impact the life of your AC air filter, like pets, cooking, and poor outdoor air quality. Filtrete MPR 1900 air filters can help capture these unwanted microparticles, including bacteria and viruses circulating in your home's air. Change your filter today with Filtrete brand.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
This is True Crime Cast. My name is Jamie, and I'm here with John. What is up?
Dude, just enjoying this this fine day that we have and looking forward to talking about this case.
Absolutely. This is one that, we kind of look around when we plan out our cases to see what's available and what's out there. And this one has not been covered widely in the true crime community, or at least in the podcast format. So I'm excited to put the story out there and see what people think about it. 'Cause it is, it's a tragic one, of course, but super interesting as well.
It is, man. You got any 5-star reviews or anything you want to read this morning?
Yeah, I got a couple here. This one comes from Truth Tellef. Maybe it was Truth Teller, but it ends with an F. Says, I love this podcast. I listen at work at Jones Beach State Park. And it was especially cool to listen to the Long Island serial killer episode while picking up garbage on that same road the bodies were found on. I appreciate the love John and Jamie show They're fans, and I really enjoy listening. I think that would feel kind of eerie.
Yeah.
But,
was that a confession?
I don't think so. I think they got their guy, and it was not truth telleth. This comes from Sandy 1679. My kids and I love to listen to true crime, and these guys are clean, interesting, and satisfying to crime-hungry junkies. Thanks for what you do.
That's awesome. I don't know that we intend for this to be a show that you can listen as a family with, but we also don't make it worse than it has to be.
Also don't know how old their kids are.
Yeah,
so
maybe
you never know.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm picturing a 5-year-old, so
right,
that's not appropriate.
Right.
But if you are,
there's some true crime to goes that are good. Yeah.
I do want to say thank you to a few folks over on Patreon. Claire Bear joined us last week at the $3 a month level. So did Alexis Dell. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us on Patreon. You and the others that have joined will get bonus content, but most importantly, you get a bonus episode each and every month that is exclusive for Patreon members.
There you go. We got a lot of good stuff out there, a lot of good stuff to come. It's summer, so we're often recording these in bulk due to our summer schedules. So we hope you have a great summer and maybe listen to us while you're driving to your vacation destination.
Yeah. All right. Let's get the ball rolling, and I'm going to ask you to do so.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about the case of Alyssa Dayvault that you may have heard of in the news. She and Chris Matechan met in 2015 when they both worked in a costume shop. From day one, Alyssa was kind of rude to Chris. He said that her attitude kind of turned her off. She was very blunt with him, and he didn't know how to handle that. At some point, she told him that he'd better not effing suck because too many people around here already suck. You know,
yeah,
it's a bit refreshing.
To be fair, you told me that earlier before we hit record. So
yeah, I thought, who wrote my quote down? It's crazy. But these two really didn't talk to each other a lot in the first couple months that they worked together. It wasn't until 3 years later that they really started getting to know each other. Chris was an amateur photographer, and he asked Alyssa to do some amateur shoots with him. And that's when they started to create chemistry and started to fall in love. Chris would say that he and Alyssa were really happy, but he didn't know how good of a liar that she really was. He would later say, I think she's such a good liar because that's all she does.
I've met people like that, that you can just tell that 90% of what they say is bullcrap.
Right. And I don't know, every lie has a little bit of the truth in it. So once you figure out how to manipulate that, people are usually, I don't know, it's almost like they get a rush from doing it. And I think that's what Alyssa did.
So one day the two of them were working in the costume shop, but Alyssa didn't show up. So they were supposed to be working, but she didn't show up for a shift. So he asked the manager where she was, and he told him that she was in the hospital. So what happened there? Well, the day before, there was an incident in the bathroom where Alyssa was bleeding. So they ended up having to call an ambulance, and Alyssa was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And when she came back, Chris asked, hey, you okay? What's going on? But she didn't want to talk about it. She told Chris that because of that incident, she would not be able to have any more children. So Chris thought that was, okay because she already had 2 great daughters and accepted that she could no longer have any more. But later he recalled that she was a little upbeat in the way she said she couldn't have any more children.
Yeah, the words sound like she was devastated or at least upset by it, but her tone didn't.
Yeah.
And it's always odd. Like, I feel like our mind tries to process that when their tone doesn't match their words, and it's almost like shock to your system to hear that.
Yeah. Well, like when I read emails, sometimes I assume a tone, but yeah, to see that written down versus how that would have sounded in an upbeat tone is almost chilling in and of itself.
Right. Well, in just a couple of months, because they were seeing each other, they ended up moving in together. At one point in 2017, Chris and the girls began to notice that Alyssa's appetite was growing, which is something you should never say to a lady. She was out eating everyone, devouring all the leftovers, and the grocery bill was quickly on the rise. Alyssa was also gaining a little bit of weight. But of course, nobody wanted to say anything. and it never crossed Chris's mind that she may be pregnant because she told him she couldn't have any more babies. But little girls, like they do, they had questions about this, and they asked why their mommy was getting bigger, and Chris simply explained that everybody has times in their lives when they're a little heavier and eat a little more, and that's all that was happening. And Chris was pretty certain that was it. Pregnancy never even crossed his mind as a possibility, and he was there to support her through whatever she was going through to increase her appetite.
In October of 2017, the family went on a trip to the mountains of North Carolina, and they went with Alyssa's extended family. And everyone noticed that Alyssa had gained some weight. She was walking slower on their hikes, and right there in front of God and everybody, her mom turned around and asked Alyssa if she was pregnant. Now, Alyssa was immediately angry, and Chris thought that it was really insensitive and rude for her mom to ask that, especially knowing that she couldn't have children anymore because of the incident that we discussed earlier. But Chris comforted her. She, obviously that's not something anyone wants to hear. And he kept telling her that she wasn't that big. This feels awkward even reading because it's so awkward of a situation. So Chris asked why her mom would even say that. And Alyssa told him that she had never actually told her mom that she couldn't have children. So I don't know if that's the case and you never told her that, then I think that is a fair question for the mom to ask.
Absolutely. I mean, and moms are going to deliver that. They're not going to care to hurt your feelings. They want to know if they're getting more grandbabies.
I mean, maybe like ask her privately instead of in the middle of everybody, but that's not what she chose to do. And later in an interview, Chris said that she never really gave me a reason not to trust her at that point. So, he believed everything she was saying because why wouldn't he?
The following month, Chris went up north to see his family, and Alyssa stayed in South Carolina with the girls. They lived around Myrtle Beach. Chris was gone for 2 weeks, again, catching up with his family. And when he came home, Alyssa was smiling, happy, and had lost somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds. In just a couple of weeks, that's usually not a very healthy amount of weight to lose. You shouldn't lose it that fast most of the time, but Chris wanted to support Alyssa, told her how great she looked, and she said that she had changed her diet and had started exercising since he had been gone. And by the next year, the pattern started again. She started eating more. She started gaining weight. She was moody. She was impatient. It seemed like she couldn't stand being around Chris or being bothered by her children. She was incredibly irritable. She would cuss at him all the time. The girls asked, "What's wrong with mommy? Why is she being mean like this?" And Chris thought that maybe whether it was due to the weight gain, the appetite, or something else, that she was going through some type of depression that caused her to treat people this way because it wasn't her norm to act like this.
Well, he also noticed that their sex life was changing. She began to never take her clothes off in front of him and insisted that the lights always stay off. She didn't want Chris to touch her. And I mean, even to the point where she wouldn't even give him a hug. Later, Chris would realize that she was trying to keep him from feeling her body. And Alyssa also snored. So Chris was a very light sleeper. So because of that, he would often sleep in a separate bedroom. Well, one night, one of the girls ran to Chris's room to wake him up, and she was saying that mommy was bleeding on the floor. So, of course, Chris bolted out of bed, ran to Alyssa's room, where he found her sitting in a puddle of blood, but she was doing her makeup. She didn't seem very concerned about what was happening, and this had to be, very traumatic to even see. When Chris went to call an ambulance, Alyssa told him not to call, that everything was okay. Clearly, it's not okay.
This is so scary. Got to be so scary for the girls and for Chris. Again, the actions not matching the situation. This looks like an urgent situation where she is in heavy danger, but instead she's doing her makeup and saying everything's fine. The actions not matching what's happening is freaky. It's like I said earlier, it sends kind of a shock to your system. They were able to get her to go to the hospital though, and when doctors talked to Chris, they told him that she was indeed going to be okay. She was admitted for what was just called heavy vaginal bleeding, and she had a tear that had become infected. She needed a blood transfusion and needed an operation to repair it. It was during this surgery that they discovered an undelivered placenta and umbilical cord. However, there was no baby, which is a very odd set of circumstances to find as a surgeon. The surgeon came to Chris and said, "How long has Alyssa been pregnant?" trying to get all the information he could to make sure they took the best care of her. Chris didn't understand the question. He told the doctor that she couldn't get pregnant, that he must have been mistaken. When they told him what they had found inside of her belly, Chris was absolutely devastated and dumbfounded. He yelled at the doctors, saying they were wrong and they were not taking the best care of his wife because they were looking in the wrong places and doing the wrong things. And in the meantime, the hospital had called the police because this looked like a situation that had been manipulated. This isn't something that happens naturally, especially without her noticing that a baby came out of her body. This is something's up, and they wanted the police to be involved just to document it, especially with how irate Chris immediately became. This was a very tense situation in the hospital.
I like to put myself in other people's shoes, and if I'm the doctor, I would probably assume something nefarious had happened. I don't know what I would do if I was Chris, because you've got a doctor telling you one thing and your girlfriend telling you another. Man, he's in a tough spot, you know?
Yeah. And I think you tend to trust those that you love and those that you know. And especially when you're so concerned about their welfare, you're not always willing to trust the people that are taking care of them if you think they're not doing it the way they should be, even though they have a medical license and you don't.
Yeah, so he finally went in to see Alyssa, and he told her what the doctors had said, but she reassured him that that wasn't possible, and she told him the doctors had to be lying or mistaken. On the 4th day in the hospital, Alyssa started ripping out her IVs. She said that she was done, she was ready to go home, didn't want to be there anymore, and the doctors advised against her leaving because there were still complications possible. But she insisted, and Chris helped her to get ready to leave. Now, in hindsight, Chris feels like Alyssa wanted to leave because she was afraid that the doctors were getting close to figuring out the truth. But anyway, after they had been home a week, Alyssa was physically and mentally getting back to her old self. So Chris went back to work, and when he came home one day, or the first day after he got back from work, Alyssa told him that the doctor had called, and she told Chris that the doctor had said that she had what was called a molar pregnancy. And this is a pregnancy that is an abnormal pregnancy where a non-viable embryo implants in the uterus. It doesn't really explain the placenta and umbilical cord with no baby there, but this is her telling him what the doctor said, allegedly.
And he took her to word. He didn't even go look up what a molar pregnancy was. He thought, oh, well, if she understands it, that must be the explanation. I have all the information that I need, and I need to move on. We all need to move on. She's healthy again, so things are heading the right direction. Let's keep our eyes forward. But he really should have been investigating further backward because she had gone home. The police were going to be doing welfare checks at the house. When we get back from the break, we'll talk about what they ended up finding and all the things that Chris overlooked in this relationship.
Running a business is hard work. Building your website shouldn't be. With Wix, you can express your ideas, give direction, then leave the heavy lifting to AI, from site creation to branded content and images. Have fun with the details. Customize what you want the way you want, and manage your whole business from a centralized dashboard with expert AI tools. Build, scale, and enjoy the incredible results. You can do it all yourself on Wix.
I love my plants. I talk to them every day. I wish I could take them everywhere with me. So when I got an email saying that my water bill was past due, I panicked. Oh no, my babies! The email said I had to go and make a payment at a crypto ATM. Then I remembered a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Crypto ATM? This is a cryptocurrency scam.
Recognize fraud sooner so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork.
The heat is here, and your AC is working overtime to keep your home cool. Did you know a dirty air filter can make your AC unit work even harder? Keep your AC running smoothly while helping improve your indoor air quality by installing a Filtrete MPR 1900 air filter. It captures 24% more particles in the air than the MERV 13 industry standard, all while letting cleaner, cooler air through. Cleaner air, reliable airflow.
What if I told you that right now, millions of people are living with a debilitating condition that's so misunderstood, many of them don't even know that they have it. That condition is obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. I'm Dr. Patrick McGrath, the Chief Clinical Officer of NoCD. And in the 25 years I've been treating OCD, I've met so many people who are suffering from the condition in silence, unaware of just what it was. OCD can create overwhelming anxiety and fear around what you value most, make you question your identity, beliefs, and morals, and drive you to perform mentally and physically draining compulsions or rituals. Over my career, I've seen just how devastating OCD can be when it's left untreated. But help is available. That's where NoCD comes in. NoCD is the world's largest virtual therapy provider for obsessive compulsive disorder. Our licensed therapists are trained in exposure and response prevention therapy, a specialized treatment proven to be incredibly effective for OCD. So visit nocd.com to schedule a free 15-minute call with our team. That's nocd.com.
Oh, I've got too many bills.
If you need funds, you can apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and have the money in your account as soon as the same business day.
Okay, got it. Applying now.
They've been helping hardworking people cover emergency expenses since 2004.
Hey, look, I got it.
You've got this.
When you need money fast, be the hero. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times. See cashnetusa.com for more details.
So they had been expecting an officer to come by just to do a wellness check to make sure that there was no kind of abuse currently happening, that she was doing well. When an officer showed up, it wasn't just one police car showing up with one guy to knock on the door and say, is everything okay? There were multiple cars that pulled up into the yard. There was a detective who was actually a friend of the family, and he asked Chris to take the girls to the park down the street to keep them busy while they talked to Alyssa. And they started questioning her immediately after the girls left. After a while, Chris saw Alyssa being escorted to the back of a police car. John, if you can put yourself in Chris's shoes for a minute, think about what this would look like. One minute you think everything's fine, we have answers, she's finally healthy, and now she's being arrested. What on earth could this have to do with what happened in the hospital?
Well, and to complicate things more, he's got the other girls with him, so they see all this too. So he's got to be thinking all that you just said, but then also has to try to explain the unexplainable or the unknowable to those girls.
And the detective that Chris knew approached him, and he asked him to stay calm for the girls, and he was really trying to help him navigate this because obviously the detective knew more about what was happening than Chris did. And that's when he told Chris that they had evidence that Alyssa had given birth to a baby and then disposed of it. It was like the bottom fell out of Chris's stomach. He had no clue what to think. And again, this was an officer that he knew and trusted. And while he believed his wife, this was a pretty ambiguous situation in front of him. So to be faced with this claim takes this from being a medical emergency solved to a whole host of problems that he wasn't ready to deal with.
Man, this had to be the biggest punch in the gut if he was truly unaware of all this. So officers interviewed Alyssa, and she told him, or told the detectives, that she hid the pregnancy from Chris and her family. She said that the night they went to the hospital, she delivered the baby in their home. She said that she passed out because of the pain, and then 15 minutes later, she woke up and the baby was unconscious. Alyssa said that she then put the baby in a trash bag and threw him in the garbage can. This is awful to hear. I mean, if any of this is true before that, why not call an ambulance? Why not call and let someone know? This is terrible. police conducted a search of the home, and they found the baby's body in the trash. And Chris found out about this, so he asked to see his son. So the detective told him that's not a great idea. The investigator said, I saw it, and I will never be the same person. You can see him, that is your right, but I would strongly advise against it. And that is when really everything clicked for Chris. It all came together for him.
Yeah, it all made sense. And, you know, he's gone from this trusting relationship to see that pretty much everything he's built up with Alyssa was built on lies from one kind to another. And now he's having to deal with the fact that, yes, she could have kids. Yes, she did have kids. And she has killed his child. And it continues to get worse. The detective told Chris that while they were talking to Alyssa, not only did she admit to this happening, she told him she had done this before. She told him back in 2017, when the first time that she had started gaining weight and her mom asked her if she was pregnant then as well. And while Chris was out of town seeing his family, that's when she gave birth to a baby. It was a girl that time at home. She said that it came out with the umbilical cord wrapped around its neck. She had hid that entire pregnancy from her family as well. She said that she threw that baby girl into an apartment complex dumpster. I just want to let that sit on how heavy this is. She has disposed of two babies that she says she hid the pregnancy, gave birth to at home. Both died during the birthing process, and she disposed of them.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier about the couple of times where she would gain weight, and then the one time she just kind of started getting better. So this is the explanation why.
And it makes all the sense in the world once you know what's happening. So I mean, it logically follows that this is what happened. Nothing that she has done makes any sense to an empathetic person. Police interviewed Chris, and they determined that he really had no idea what Alyssa was doing. There are a lot of interviews with Chris out there, so if you're curious about that, I encourage you to watch them. He can be a bit of an awkward guy, but I believe him for what that's worth, and you may not, so that's fine as well. Alyssa would be charged by police for 2 counts of homicide by child abuse. She was also ordered not to see her 2 children without permission when she was released on bail. So she is being charged with the deaths of these babies that Chris allegedly had no knowledge of and that she disposed of largely without people knowing until she went to the hospital.
So, well, let's fast forward to her trial. She did not show up for it, but they were able to move forward with the case against her even without her there. So the first thing the prosecution did was play tapes of her being questioned by investigators. And in those, you can hear that she first denied having a baby, but when questioned more and they pressed more, she started crying and then admitted to throwing away the babies. You can hear her cry. She said something like, I wasn't thinking, I was too scared. The prosecution said, this isn't a murder trial. We don't have enough evidence to prove the defendant intentionally killed her babies. So we're not saying she intentionally suffocated them. Instead, the prosecutors would prove that Alyssa showed extreme indifference for human life by not seeking care from anyone for her newborns. The prosecution said she didn't drop the girls or the baby girl off at the fire station. She didn't put the girl up for adoption. She didn't ask her mother to take care of the child. She simply threw this baby out with the trash. And so, they're not saying that this is murder. Rather, she's charged with basically homicide, like manslaughter in Kentucky is what we would probably call that. But they're saying she didn't intentionally kill him, but she didn't take the care needed to make sure that they stayed alive.
And to be clear, I don't think this is because they didn't think she did it on purpose. I think this is what they knew they could prove, and this was the best way to make sure that she was convicted because... I don't know. Again, just asking me, I think she probably killed them on purpose after they were born alive.
I think you're probably right. And they, like you said, they just didn't have the evidence to prove that part. But what they did have was was definitely enough for the charges that she was charged with.
Which I agree with their tactic. I think it's the right decision. They put an expert on the stand that testified that he examined the body of the baby boy and said that all the examinations indicated that the baby was healthy and that he was carried to full term. Remember, she claimed that the boy was unconscious when she woke up from passing out due to the pain. The expert said there was essentially no explanation for the child's death based on anything we could find externally on the body, internally in the body. We're essentially left with what appeared to be a perfectly normal-looking term fetus. The state also showed evidence that the baby boy was alive when he was placed in the trash bag, which is a very important piece of evidence. It appeared that there was meconium, which is the baby's first bowel movement when they are born, and that was in the trash bag, meaning that the baby had a bowel movement in the trash bag. This, they said, indicates that he must have been living when placed in the bag, which changes her story of just disposing of the deceased baby.
Yeah, I mean, that is solid evidence now. Maybe she didn't murder him by ending his life immediately, but by tossing him in the trash and abandoning him, that led to his death.
Absolutely.
So in my mind, maybe with that case, you do have evidence that you could convict her for murder. Alyssa's public defender went forward with her case without her there, and she told jurors that she didn't think the prosecution can definitively say Alyssa didn't care about her babies at all. I think that's why you're a public defender, because that is a stupid thing to say, in my opinion.
Well, and I mean, what are you going to say? And I
would say this woman has mental health issues.
Yeah.
But not to say that seems like something I would not say.
Put yourself in a public defender's shoes. Well, how do you feel if you try to defend this person?
Maybe she doesn't like this woman. And so by saying that, she is intentionally trying to let the jury see, actually, the opposite of what I said is true. Please see through this bull crap. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so they didn't call any witnesses, but in closing arguments, the defense said that the circumstances in Alyssa's birth were not ideal, but they also weren't illegal. She said that it is not child neglect to not seek prenatal care when there's no problems with the pregnancy. It's not ideal, but it's not against the law. Okay, you're right, but that's not why we're here, right? The defense also said that one of the state's witnesses said that Alyssa had shown indications of having hypertension and anorexia when she was pregnant with the baby girl, which can complicate pregnancies. They also said the prosecution failed to produce a single witness that said if Alyssa called the EMS, that it would have saved the life of either of the babies. Probably not the strongest arguments, because how can you defend somebody like this? So what happened, man?
Yeah, that's really, I mean, being a public defender, I think there are some people who really value it because everybody deserves a defense, but then you run into situations like this for things that are almost indefensible that you have to defend, and that's where this defender found herself. In the prosecution's closing arguments, they said that by concealing her pregnancies, Alyssa prevented her children from receiving any help whatsoever. Here's a quote from that closing statement. "The crime was committed at the time she decided, I don't want anybody to help these children. We know we don't just put human beings in trash bags, and we certainly don't do it twice," end quote. It was up to the jury to determine whether the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Alyssa Dayvault caused the death of this child. And the child, the way the law is written, since the child was under 11, then this is considered child abuse or neglect, which I think could also apply to older kids, but it would be a different code violation within the law. In a matter of hours, the jury found Alyssa guilty of homicide by child abuse in both 2017 and 2018 in the death of both of her babies. The then 33-year-old Alyssa, who was a mother of two girls, she was not present, but they did hold off on sentencing until she was apprehended and brought in. Once founding, she was held guilty. She did turn herself in, and she was brought in and given a sentence of 40 years in prison. When she addressed the judge, she was crying and called her actions a horrible mistake. She said, "I just wanted to apologize to my family, especially to my daughters. I hope that one day they'll be able to forgive me for what I've done." She also apologized to Chris and to his family. She had taken away 2 children from him, 2 grandbabies from his parents. She's not eligible for parole, and she's expected to be released in September of 2055 when her 40-year sentence has been completely served.
Yeah, I hope that she, I'd like to see her never get out of jail. So,
yeah, well, I mean, she was 33 when she was convicted. She would be in her 70s then. I mean, there's a fair chance that she will get out of prison at that point and still be living.
Yeah. Sorry. The baby boy's remains were released to Alyssa's mother while they performed a DNA test to confirm paternity. In that time, Alyssa's family had the baby cremated. They actually had a ceremony and spread his ashes, and they did all this without even involving Chris. He also suspects that the incident that she had at the costume shop years prior, when she just didn't show up for work and said she was in the hospital, he thinks that was probably another child that she had and disposed of. And she told Chris about a similar incident 10 years before the one in the costume shop, so he believes that that's also another baby she disposed of. So all in all, Chris believes that Alyssa has done this 4 times, and he has no explanation as to why Alyssa would do this other than simply Alyssa enjoys throwing her babies away. She doesn't want to raise them. To this day, Chris carries a lot of guilt with him, and he said in one interview that a parent's job in life is to protect their children. My sole purpose was to protect them, and they didn't even last 30 minutes on this planet. So if he has no involvement and nothing to do with this, then my heart goes out to him. He said that he was comforted by a dream that he had a few months after the trial, and in that dream, his late grandmothers were in heaven holding his babies and letting him know that it's okay, they're in a better place, and he takes a lot of comfort from that. So yeah, again, if Chris was completely unaware, then my heart does go out for him. Look, my wife, she weighs like 100 pounds soaking wet, also carrying a couple of bricks. It would be very noticeable if she was pregnant full term. I really don't understand how you could not know, but it does happen all the time. I know somebody pretty well actually that did not know she was pregnant until she went to the hospital for abdominal pain and realized she was having a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I've known of that happening before as well, and it's a lot more common than anybody would think. But Alyssa probably did know she was pregnant. It's just that her family didn't, and she wasn't letting them in on that. Based on the information we have, how do you feel about Chris's claim that he really didn't know anything?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to remain skeptical, but it's not outline of the realm of possibilities. What do you think?
Yeah, I believe him. I think that she had done this before. He was unaware of it. Again, he's kind of odd in his interviews, but I find him to be believable, and I find his actions before and after to match that of a person that I would expect to be innocent here. So certainly my heart goes out to those little girls, and I can't help but thinking, of course, they're scarred. Their mother's gone forever or gone to prison for most of the rest of her life. They've missed out on 2 little siblings, but also how close were they to being disposed of at birth?
I mean, I was thinking that, but I didn't say it. But like, why did she keep those 2?
Right.
And I don't know.
And you wonder if they're asking themselves that. And I don't know that there's a good answer. It may have been timing. It may have been a number of things, but maybe she didn't want any more after she had the 2. I don't know. But it is certainly something to think about. And yeah, I'm glad that this stopped when it did. There's no indication that she would have stopped doing this. And if she hadn't had the delivery where she didn't, what's the right word? Go ahead and deliver the placenta and the umbilical cord and have to go to the hospital for that, then she may have never been caught.
I think if he would have been gone, like if he would have been on a trip or something for the week, I think that he is the reason that she went to the hospital. If he wouldn't have been there, she might have just delivered the rest at home, and then he would have been none the wiser.
Yeah. Horrific story, but certainly an interesting one. And I think one that I think this happens more than most people realize. I think we do see that if you go and research statistics, but infanticide, is that what it's called when you kill a baby?
Infanticide, yeah.
Infanticide. I think it's a lot more common than we think of people trying to hide pregnancies or to, I don't know, get out of the responsibility of whatever decision you make about a baby. So I'm glad that she can't, or I hope she can't do that anymore. I mean, she's in prison, but I don't know what kind of access she has to men, to potentially getting pregnant again, but
hopefully none.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I still really in my heart don't understand how a husband, boyfriend just cannot know that their significant other is pregnant. But again, there have been women who didn't know they were pregnant. I don't think she was, she didn't have the body shape that would have been very easy to hide. I'm going to just say that, and that might sound insensitive, but I feel like a little bit of logic and thought could produce that in your brain, but maybe not.
Yeah. It's a tough situation. I'm glad I've never been in it. Don't want to be, and I wish nobody was. But she is in prison, and I think as much as it could have been, justice was served. Just continue to hope that those little girls are able to grow up and heal from the trauma they've suffered because of it.
All right, that's going to wrap this one up. Jamie, you did good. Talking about this, I know, is hard, and you were on your phone a little bit, maybe towards the end, but overall, I'm proud of you.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I'm of course aware when our writer Mackenzie sends these now, she's like, Jamie, charge your phone before you record. So, because I really struggle with these things. I know you see it daily, so it's a bit different for you. But yeah, it's a tough one. But hopefully, we all made it through it together, and we're done. Thankfully.
Guys, again, if you want more content from True Crime Cast, don't forget to check out patreon.com. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to bonus episodes, exclusive content, and our regular show early and ad-free.
We really appreciate you listening, and look forward to the next episode.
Until next crime, this has been True Crime Cast.
You've listened to True Crime Cast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Running a business is hard work. Building your website shouldn't be. With Wix, you can express your ideas, give direction, then leave the heavy lifting to AI, from site creation to branded content and images. Have fun with the details. Customize what you want the way you want, and manage your whole business from a centralized dashboard with expert AI tools. Build, scale, and enjoy the incredible results. You can do it all yourself on Wix.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.